I'm pretty sure he is. I'm gonna rule him now. We'll all find out together because that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk some PGA DFS live before lock at Stokastic, presented by PrizePicks, as it always is. The FedEx St. Jude. I am struggling with Championship. It used to be the Invitation, it used to be a WGC, but it is the FedEx St. Jude Championship. It is part of the FedEx Cup.
Isn't it?
Yeah, Classic, not Championship. I am not down with that, but I am Ben Rasa. That is Geoff Ulrich, and we are here taking our walk of shame after we railed against Tom Kim. I'll be doing that again tonight. Spoiler alert, don't like him at all this week. Again, but we'll save that for later in the show. Friends, I see you all in chat. What is up, everybody? You guys know the drill. If you want to support us, hit that like button right off the bat. Let's get a good momentum going. Sir, we were just talking before the show. More live news. We'll talk about that a little bit. How you feeling on the eve of the President's Cup, of the FedEx Cup?
No, I'm feeling good. I mean, like, it's a little bit of a change, obviously, from the fields we've been getting. You know, we had the Detroit fields, the Wyndham, the classic birdie fest with a couple players up top. Now we get like the big boys back, and it just feels, different at the top. You know, you've got guys in the 30 to 40 range, legitimate top players, elite guys, and you're getting them at better numbers this week for betting and DFS and stuff like that. So yeah, nice change of pace here. I know the playoffs, as it gets to the end with the Tour Championship, gets a little silly, but the first couple events, they're pretty strong events. You usually see some really high in golf. So
it's great. I love it. I love this. I love cuts with a smaller field where like 6-6 matters. It's not a WGC, but it's not 155. Like this is like, the Memorial Waste Management style. We've got, with Decky withdrawing, we're about 120 players in this. And let's talk about that. We'll talk about the weather and the withdrawals. Nasty Nate Lashley is out. Hideki thinned out what I thought was a really difficult range with his neck issue. That's all I see. Weather, I don't really see much, to be honest. What are you doing with the waves and the weather? Anything?
Yeah, so the only interesting thing about this event with the weather and the waves and stuff like that is that, like if you look at first round leaders and stuff, some of them come from the PM waves, but remember, those were condensed fields. So I think a lot of what we said last week probably applies here. You're going to get slightly softer greens in the morning. And again, what did we see? We saw John Huh go out and shoot 61. So right idea. Unfortunately, I didn't have him in the first round leaders, but I definitely had the right idea. The low scores were there in the morning. I think you'll see something similar to this week. It's really dry there. Talked to a couple people that have like drought-like conditions. So any kind of moisture advantage you can get, probably going to help. But other than that, I think it's pretty obvious. People need me to tell you that like a golf course is more receptive in the morning. But other than that, there's really nothing like mind-broken here. There's no big wins. It's just going to be Memphis heat, and the greens will dry out, I think, as the week goes on.
I think so. I think for the betting purposes, as you mentioned, like first round leader bets, if for some reason you're getting round matchups where one guy's in the PM, one guy's in the AM, maybe something. But all in all, where I'm building my teams over 4 days, I think you're going to see a negligible difference, and it's very hard to pinpoint. It's not like there won't be some wind, but it's going to be manageable. Like I think that's something, not to go down a rabbit hole this early in the show. Guys can play in wind. It's more if one side has like 40-mile-an-hour winds and the other is 0. Like if it's gusting to 15, 20 miles, that's really not that big a deal, particularly if it's consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only other thing I have on the weather is just, I do think this course is going to play tough. And I know when we get into the next segment, that might affect like, bets we're taking or like parlays we're putting together. But I think you might see again slightly lower scoring and maybe like a performance like Justin Thomas from 2020, which won when he lost strokes putting here and just was a beastie to green. That you could see something similar to that. So that's the only feel I got for the course this week.
Yeah, I think that the good thing about this, even though it's kind of like new, it's not new at all in terms of what we see this course all the time. It's just a different variation in terms of the format. So I think we know that you're going to be dealing with some Bermuda. Gotta keep it out of the drink. I mean, that's the great equalizer. It's got some Florida components to it in my mind. Irons, make your putts, technical, but I think you can score here. I think the big defense is not in the sense like some courses you're going to see bogey after bogey. Here it's you're going along and then you make like an 8.
Yeah.
It's a blow up type course.
Yeah. It's the classic like Bay Hill, Florida blow up course. Exactly. Like you'll see guys go out and shoot 64, but you also see players who maybe didn't even like play that bad shoot like 74 because they hit in the drink twice on one hole or something, right? So
yes.
And that's another thing to remember though, like don't give up on people. Like if someone shoots a 74, they can come back, they can go low on this course. So you always see that. I know like Burns in the final round last year made a big comeback. You know, there's definitely room here for people to kind of do that. So yeah, it's very much, it's just kind of this this venue is always like we just dip back into Florida. I know it's in Memphis, but it feels very much like a Florida tournament.
It really does. And yes, I think if we saw anything last week, it's that you can start a little slow and have plenty of time to claw back. Like, I mean, I don't really understand guys making quads and winning tournaments, but that's neither here nor there. I've never seen anything like that.
A lot about what happened last week.
Yeah, that's also fair. That was like the third most egregious thing. The cut line, which maybe we'll talk about at some point, was one of the crazier as well. But we turn the page and we talk about our sponsor here, and PrizePicks is powering the show. If you've not been over there, we've been having a blast and a lot of opportunities to make some money, starting with, you see it on the screen, we're going to match your first deposit up to $100 with that promo code AWESEMO. PrizePicks.com or download in the App Store. And we're talking about over-unders in various categories, whether it's birdies or better matchups, strokes, fairways hit, all different categories. And I love the way they match these up because there's no line. You're just picking who do you think will say have more birdies. And to me, there's decisive advantage. You've got like Rory versus Hovland. And even though I like Hovland a little bit this week, Rory is just better. And I think you're going to see that, you know, Cantlay versus Keith Mitchell. To me, you got world-class players against guys in that next tier, and you can take advantage over on PrizePicks.
Yeah. Look, I mean, Rahm versus Davis Riley, you know,
what are we doing here?
Yeah, that one sticks out for sure. Obviously we're talking about run round of golf, but like, I mean, I'm just going through the list now, but like Morikawa versus HV3. Yeah, we
Ricky
can go
versus
down here.
Kramer Hickok. That's at the very bottom. Talk about your all-time.
Oh,
matchup.
Wow. Yeah. I might take Hickok on that actually.
No joke. I think one of my favorite PrizePicks bets, being serious, is unfortunately for Ricky, strokes. I think he's going to shoot over 70 tomorrow. He's doing nothing with the irons with all the water. There's so many opportunities to make mistakes, and he's going to make more than one. Yeah.
But, and again, with like a deeper field too, PrizePicks has given us a ton of interesting matchups here, and definitely something like for a round one and all the rounds, you know, you should be looking at. But yeah, again, a lot of these are pretty obvious. You don't need to take on like matchups that are you feel like a coin flip or even just like a slightly one-sided. Look for the really obvious ones and go with it. You got an edge for sure.
You definitely do. And over the course of a year, you're going to see that your balance is going to go up over on PrizePicks if you are just taking these easy opportunities. And over on the OddsChecker YouTube, we have videos breaking it all down for every sport. I do our golf video, so I know who we picked because I did it. You can tail that, fade it. It doesn't matter, but good opportunities over on PrizePicks. I really enjoy that format. We're going to be talking about them throughout the show. Let's get into it though. We obviously have, you mentioned this, the Wyndham, the 3M, Rocket Mortgage, whatever we're talking about. We didn't see Rory and Scheffler and Xander and Cam Smith and Cantlay all together. We saw maybe one of them here, one of them there. Now we get a major field. This is priced like a major. This is a major. So when we get to the top and we start rank them, when I say pick the favorite up top, this is a massive, massive heavy hitters, and it's very difficult. So I'm going to keep that as the prerequisite. You've got Rory versus Scheffler versus Xander up top. How do you prioritize three of the best players in the world?
Yeah. And I mean, it's pretty hard not to have Rory as your number one. I mean, it's just, if you've been watching golf and stuff like that, I mean, obviously Scheffler had the nice beginning of season run. He's still playing extremely well too. Schauffele is done well for himself over the last little bit, but like, you know, I think Scheffler definitely deserves to be like in the conversation with Rory in terms of like the best players right now. But like, for me, it's still Rory. I mean, and it's not just me saying this again, like, you know, the Stokastic projections, which, you know, we'll definitely pump here on sites, but are very useful. And they got Rory big this week, like big, 30 over 35% top six rate. I know I mentioned it before, but at the Open, he was the top play with a 26% top six rate. So gives you an idea of just how bullish they are on Rory McIlroy. I would definitely go Scheffler second, though. I think Scheffler is worthy of consideration this week. Maybe you try some kind of like weird double with Rory and Scheffler. That's fine. We Scotty won on the Florida swing. He's shown he can definitely be a player who, will drive it straight, bounce back. But Schauffele is the clear third for me. I just think that you're getting a little bit too fancy. I think if you're playing him, he's a player. Like again, we have to make some tough decisions. I could make a tough decision about him and just say I'm fine leaving him out this week.
The great thing, it's a blessing and a curse when you have all these guys. The blessing is that there are no quote unquote low owned options. Everyone garners ownership. So you rarely see like someone get to like 40% in a field like this because there's so many other good options. If Rory was playing at the 3M and he was 11K, he would be 40% owned as he should be. Here, it's not the case. He's moderately owned. And for me, he is the best player. He's the rightful favorite. He's just everything is going perfectly. He's just not winning at the most opportune moments, particularly in majors. I don't think that there's a lot to that. He's just losing somewhat arbitrarily. He's playing very well. It would be him over Scheffler, over Xander, but I'm going to throw this right out there. The classic curse. You heard it here first. Xander is projected to be not that popular. And every time this happens, everyone sees that. And then Xander ends up somehow popular. I've seen this 1,000 times in my life.
Yeah.
And this is another one of these cases. I am so worried that everyone sees Xander and then pivots to Xander, thus making Xander popular.
And guess what? Xander's always popular, even when he's not supposed to be. It's just like he's the one guy who always has ownership, no matter what the price, the form. I swear to God, there's never been a time when Xander Schauffele has been like less than 15% owned. So, I think people are going to play him. And again, it's not like he's a great player. It's just like, we're ranking the top three. He's only $200 less than Scheffler. I'll definitely put him third. And I think that's a player like, again, I would feel okay with just the other options and how we can build lineups this week. Being fading or however you want to put it.
No doubt about it. We're going to get to the rest of the 10K, but we move to the next rank 'em and we're going to go to the 9K for a second because there are some big names in the 9K range if you go balanced. Matthew Fitzpatrick leads us off. Tony Finau, who's playing obviously perfect golf and as a name that people are throwing out there. How do you rank the start of the nines with Fitzy, Finau, and Will Z?
So,
yeah, that's right.
Well, it's like we like these players. Like I like Will Zalatoris. I get that like everybody wants this guy to win and everybody wants to be on it, but like, what are we doing when he's like 9,500 and you've just got these names behind him that we'll get to in a sec? I don't know. Like I can see I can see playing him in like a balanced lineup, but we're on Bermuda grass. We're in a Florida swing. I'll take Matthew Fitzpatrick. I'll just take Matthew Fitzpatrick, who's won a major and has shown like real upside when he gets to these type of courses. He's got a great track record at TPC Southwind. The Willie Z win's coming. I don't know if it's this week. I just know that like when you compare him to where I think he should be versus like players beneath him, I think he's overpriced. And I don't really like his betting number this week either. So I'm just trying to be the voice of reason. It's not like an anti-Will Z stance or something. I don't even care that he hasn't won. Like he'll win. He's good enough. But I just, but when I see this, I think Fitzpatrick and Finau are the plays here. And Willie Z's a third and compare him to the field. He's just too expensive.
I'll split the difference. I have Fitzy first. I think that Matthew Fitzpatrick is just really taken his game to another level because of his abilities off the tee now. I love just kind of how he developed his game because he had everything else. And then he learned how to get a little extra distance. He still keeps pretty good accuracy and everything else is just great. Really good experience here at St. Jude. Gained 10 strokes putting 1 year here, Bermuda greens. That's very comfortable for him. I think he sets up perfectly. I like Will Z and our owner. Just to give you guys a little peek behind the glass, we have Will Z projected for 12%. If he comes in around there, I'm fine with it. He's doing everything that you want. He's obviously got all the talent every time he tees it up. And I think the one thing that people are gravitating towards when you talk about Will Z, it's always, can he make enough putts? Luckily here, that's not as big of an issue because shooting 10 to 12 under is probably going to be good enough in a lot of scenarios. And that's a lot easier than having to make 20 birdies, from 15 feet.
It is. And I think the conditions will be good for Will Zalatoris.
Yes.
I'm ranking him third here. If he is definitely projecting on the Stokastic ownership, like lower than Finau even. I'm actually surprised Finau is getting up there because I feel like people come to this kind of Florida swing and that's where they get off Finau, but he's up there. So that's something you consider. Zalatoris through Florida, T38, Arnold Palmer, T26 players. Again, these aren't the be all end all or anything like that. Cut at the Charles Schwab. I'm just not sure. I know the course is going to play tough. The greens will be fast. I'm just not sure if this is it for him. Like right now, this is his best setup. So I just see everybody kind of coming in on it, and maybe it won't be as big a thing for DFS. Maybe it's just more betting, but I don't know. For DFS, I'll keep him third there. Again, if he's 9,000 or like 8,900, be a different story.
Yeah, there's also the opportunities, again, when we talk about the show, this is DFS centric, but there's always opportunities in the betting markets to get some exposures you've talked about with some of these guys. And we're going to talk about a couple guys where I've done just that. And Will Z might honestly make the card in some capacity. I'm still tossing around that idea. But yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense. We're still, I think, pretty clearly in ranges until you dip into even the eights, you can play anybody up here and feel pretty good about it because they're world-class players. But let's go back a second. Talked about the favorites. I've talked about the 9K, the other big names. So I'm not going to say these guys are lost, but they're not Scheffler, they're not Rory, and they're not Xander. And I mean John Rahm, who I did bet because I got north of 20 to 1 and I don't care. Justin Thomas and Patrick Cantlay, who's playing amazing, but he just melts in some inopportune moments, particularly on Sundays. If you're omitting the guys we've talked about and you're just ranking Rahm and JT and Cantlay, how do you go about that?
Yeah. So who do I from a strategy perspective? From a recent form perspective, you probably go Cantlay, Rahm, Thomas, right? I think just in terms of who I like this week, I like this week for Rahm. I really do. We've seen this from him. He goes through little cold stretches, but I just feel like people always make too big a deal out of it with Rahm, and it's just not a big deal. He's just so good, and he goes through little fits of just it's just like a malaise. But I never feel like with John Rahm, he's lost it. He's just kind of searching for it. And maybe it's because I've just seen this story from him, and we even saw it from him this year. I know it's just the Mexico Open, but he came there, he wasn't in good form, and he grabbed the win and he found it. And that's what he did at the Memorial in 2020 as well. The last time he was 20 to 1 or bigger in odds. I think you get on John Rahm this week. I really like this setup. I think that he's a player who's coming in. I think he's probably the most talented of those three, although JT's super talented too. And I think that he's coming in as one of those players who looking to make up for lost time. We've seen Rory come into seasons like that, come into the playoffs and just turn it up. I think Rahm has a very good chance to do the same thing. I'll take Rahm as first. I don't really know what's going on with Justin Thomas. It's a great course for him. I think he's won here, but I don't know. I think I'd have to go Cantlay second just because Thomas is someone maybe I just want to see it from a little bit more. He's also really struggled on the greens here. He won losing strokes putting, but he also lost 5 strokes. So I don't know. There's enough for me to put Cantlay second, I guess.
I'm with you. I do really like Rahm this week. Again, I bet him. I want to be clear. I think of all the guys up, this is one of these counterintuitive things. Of all the guys 10K and above, I think that John Rahm is most likely to get cut of the entire bunch. But that's okay in my mind because I still think the upside is clearly there, and that Rahm as the 7th most expensive golfer in any field is something we're not going to see for a very long time. Now, if the game is in shambles and there's real problems, well, it's not going to end well. But I'm willing to bank it. I'm willing to buy early. The one thing I want to ask you, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but John Rahm really doesn't play a lot of golf. Not that we're in Florida, I want to be clear. He really doesn't play during the Florida swing much at all. We don't see him. When we do, it seems like it's okay. But I do worry a little about some of that. It's just not usually his normal time. We see more damage out west.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely like arguments against it. Yeah. I mean, Rahm, again, that's probably not an ideal setup, much like Zalatoris. I'd rather have them both on Torrey Pines, right? But you know, Rahm was in pretty deep contention here the year Brooks won. I think he kind of semi-melted down on Sunday, just couldn't make putts. So, you know, it's a worry, but I think for DFS strategy, like you bring up a good point about the betting. I think that Rahm is a bet 100% at 22, 20 to 1. I wouldn't call him like a must play for DFS, much for the reasons we're going over. But at 10,002, you could maybe include him as like a second man in if you're starting with like Scheffler or something like that. I definitely like him for consideration, but I don't necessarily sit here and say you got to play Rahm for DFS. I think that there's enough value and you can make balanced lineups this week. So I look at Rahm from kind of two different lenses. I think that you're going to feel stupid if Rahm wins and you didn't bet him at 22 to 1. You won't feel quite as bad if he wins and you maybe just weren't like super bullish on him for DFS. So
well said. I am playing him, but I think that the upside is what I'm trying to tap into. You can do that with betting. DFS though, I just, as the seventh most expensive golfer and not owned relative to the range, I really like that spot. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
Finally, we worked down a little more to some of the mid-range options and kind of the chalk potential mid-range options when we look at some of these guys here. And of course, Sungjae Im would lead us off there. He is projected to maybe be the most popular play. He's been super close in recent weeks. He checks a lot of boxes. Tom Kim prevented Sungjae from potentially winning last week. He's going to be very popular as well. And then Victor Hovland, who I don't think will be crazy popular, but he's not going to be unowned either. I'm pretty sure I saw a tweet from you potentially that you've been sucked into Victor Hovland, but how do you order these three?
Yeah. So it was who was
Sungjae, Tom Kim, and Victor Hovland.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure Tom Kim was the third guy we were talking about before. I was about to say Morikawa, but yeah. I mean, I don't even know what to say about Tom Kim, obviously. I mean, the 12 strokes putting, is just a young player who's playing with house money. Like, and we have seen these 20-year-olds, Jordan Spieth did it when he came in, Morikawa did it. They just get on a roll, man, and they just don't care. And it's just like, no one's told them that like, this is supposed to be hard yet. No one's told Tom Kim that the PGA Tour is supposed to be hard. He could come out here and do it again. I'm going to say like you have to put Hovland first for me because I think he's the best of these three right now. I love the fact that you're getting Victor Hovland coming off a top 5 at the Open. And now like people are still a little skeptical. I mean, I think that, you know, if the Open had been last week, you know, or if he had made like a couple cuts before that, he'd definitely be a very popular play. You worry with Hovland sometimes on these courses, the short game and stuff like that. But to me, he's still got the best upside. So I go Hovland, I'll go Sungjae last, and yeah, I'll throw Tom Kim third again, and just we'll challenge him to keep gaining strokes and put him on a tougher test and see what happens. But I don't know. He's a great player. He's probably someone you should be looking to bet futures at the majors because he's, like I said, like next year and then look, half the guys on the tour are going to be gone next year too. So. But for this week, I'm still going Hovland, and I'll go Tom Kim third.
I'm going to put Hovland first. So I think here's what we're doing. If you think that around the green is going to be minimized or negated, as it has kind of been around here when we've seen it, then I really like Hovland. He makes sense. If you don't think that, I would caution because Victor Hovland's around the green game is actually problematic. And on Bermuda, I think that would be magnified in some regard. That's the only thing I can really knock him. Sungjae, of course, makes sense. Honda, everything that you say, he's just extremely popular. I think he's rightfully extremely solid in the mid-range. This is how I get into trouble on shows. Tom Kim, in this situation, if he is the most popular player or close to it,
yeah,
I think would be on the short list. And I'm just being honest, as one of the worst plays of the entire year. I really don't say it. Now, he's a phenomenal player. Our chat, credit to them. They have been yelling for a while now, this is a phenom. And it looks like he really might be a phenom. But let's honestly look at what happened last week. He was good, but he gained 12 and a half strokes putting. I mean, he should win. You should win a golf tournament if you're a good player and you gain 12 and a half strokes putting. Coming there in a massive step up in field strength with a massive step up in ownership is a very lethal combination. He may play very well again, but your margins are a lot thinner here. And the opportunity cost is massive because there's a million guys in the high sevens that I think are really good players and might be slight favorites in a head-to-head against Tom Kim.
Yeah. And just to add on to that point, whose win equity is better in this range? Like Neiman, Homa, Hatton, they're all better than Tom Kim this week. I mean, I get it. Like he's a phenom, he's great, but those guys are still like they're just probably better chance to win. So yeah, Ben said it all. If he's gonna be popular, you're pressing your luck. If you cashed in last week, just cash in. that would be my recommendation. And look, if he does it again, man, in like top fives, I don't even know. What should we do next week? Should we just like wear hats that like say Tom Kim is the greatest or something? I don't know. Maybe we should like make penalties for ourselves or something. But
yeah, I'll probably just go like full snake oil and just be like, I mentioned this guy 4 months ago that he was a real prospect.
Right, yeah.
Like who nobody knows what's going on out there. Just like
maybe I made a tweet about him in like 2000.
Yeah, I'll just
I'll
like,
bring that up
because if he keeps doing it, more power to him. And I want to be clear, there's absolutely a chance that he plays well. Again, he's that good, but we're not talking about that. This is golf. It's high variance. We're playing game theory here, and I will take Ty Hatton 50 times over before I play Tom Kim this week. And that kind of leads us into make the cut. Of course, we've got a bunch of names here. We're just going to talk about it. And I will say it's an easier to make cut because there's just less players in the field. We're getting started with some of the guys that are actually going to be pivots off of a guy like Tom Kim, starting with Aaron Wise at 7,700.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's the show where we're not going to disparage Aaron Wise. The only bad thing that I'd have to say about Wise is that, he's pushing 15% ownership. It does feel like this is kind of the play that people are getting on in this range. Him and Henley probably going to be splitting it a lot. Look, after round one last week, when Aaron Wise had the big broomstick rolling, I thought we were going to get I thought he was going to do it. I was pretty convinced after round one, I was going to be at least sweating an Aaron Wise outright on Sunday. Did not happen. He's good enough to do it. My only problem with him is just the ownership thing. Like, it's not egregious, but there's definitely like pivots in this range. So I think that like Aaron Wise will make the cut because he's really good. I'm just not exactly sure what I want to do with him yet, or how I want to invest in him. I think he'll be fine. Yeah,
I think he's going to be fine.
He's a little bit like Hovland. Like the short game could definitely bring him down here, but like he'll probably, even if he makes a quad, he'll probably bounce back with enough birdies and save you. So
yeah, I feel very comfortable with Aaron Wise. I would use him playing good. Everything is there. He just needs to sync it up. His putting and around the green were actually really good at Wyndham, and unfortunately the irons were not. But you got to keep him, there's some funky stuff going on at some of these tournaments with these numbers because of hazards and whatnot. Like here, you're going to see crazy statistics in stroke gain. Why? Because if you have an iron shot and it goes into the water, it's not like you're in the rough. It's a little different. So just keep that in mind. Next up, the winner of the tournament, actually, ironically, which would be Ty Hatton, 7,800, was great last week. I really liked him, showed up, did not cash my outright on him because he didn't win the tournament. That's really how that works. But he did gain 5 1/3 on the approach, strokes gained in all 4 categories, 11th, 8th, zooming back out, 56th, 24th, 11th, 8th, Bermuda splits, winner at API. I really like the spot for him this week.
Yeah, I got nothing bad to say about him. And again, you can check out the Stokastic ownership projections. He's got some people looking at him, but again, like this range, and maybe this makes all these guys like pretty solid plays, but I would prefer Hatton over Wise. So that's as a guy who likes to bet Aaron Wise too. I like Hatton this week. I like it when he gets in these zones. Hatton is very much a form guy. He's been that his whole career. You can even just look back at his record on the Euro Tour. He starts popping top 8s and he gets interested and he kind of just eventually breaks through. I'm not saying he's going to win this week, but like I would definitely go back to him here. I think he'll do absolutely fine. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he put in like another top 10.
Decky withdrew, and I think a lot of that ownership is going to go to Sanjay, but possibly Shane Lowry could see some of it because he's right below Decky. He had to do the old, oh, wait, I actually made the cut strategy last week. His putter was a mess. He lost 7.5 strokes putting. Do you like Shane Lowry here? I think he does make the cut, but I wasn't immediately drawn to him either.
Yeah, I like playing guys on bounce back spots. He was 6th here, I think, in 2020. You look at what Lowry's done, like he's played well at Honda, 3rd there, Hilton Head too. It kind of makes sense. This is a good spot for Lowry. It's such a deep field. Like I don't want to be the guy recommending every play, right? But like, Sanjay is a guy I recognize as playing well. I'd be perfectly fine pivoting off of like the most popular owned player, which could possibly be Sanjay M, and going to Lowry. So I look at Lowry as a very good big field pivot, maybe like a single entry guy even, to kind of, if you're looking, because this is a player who's like everyone loved at the majors, and he's had like one rough tournament, and I don't think he's going to be very popular. So yeah, I think Lowry is a guy who will bounce back this week. I'm not necessarily like betting him or anything like that, but at 8,300, could he produce you a top 10 for sure? I think that enough times, again, if you're looking at Sanjay, if he's going to push 25%, and you're looking at Lowry, who I'm trying to find for projections, but again, that's probably because he's going to be pretty low owned. Is Lowry going to beat Sanjay like, 1 out of every 3rd time? Sure, probably. So I like it.
No problem with it. Again, the thing about this, you're to kind of tie that in as we keep going, your lineups are going to look amazing, like a major. So we can recommend a lot of quality golfers because you can group 4, say you omit the 10s, you get 4 or 5 of these big names in there in the same lineup. So I'm okay with that. We've reached the part of the show that literally will be part of this show forever. And it's me asking you about Davis Riley. He looked pretty good last week. I actually played him, and if HV3 didn't fully coffin me, it could have been okay. I just have no feel for this guy's game though. Do you think this is a good course for him?
If you like, yeah, I do, because I think it's I think ultimately Davis Riley is actually going to be a guy who we actually like at a little bit tougher conditions. You look at like the Valspar and what he did there. I mean, I think that's a very good comparable course. It's kind of like that Sam Burns course where it plays tough, but if you're a shot maker like Burns is, and you can get that putter rolling, like you can still put up decent scores. And I feel like that's kind of what Davis Riley needs, more than just like a birdie fest. He almost seems to get bored with birdie fest, where he just makes a couple like wild shots and then it's like he's toast. Again, you look at this range, he's going to be the lowest owned, right? So I think it's a good setup for him. I'm not really sure what to do with them necessarily, but it's kind of like the Cam Young at the Open thing. With these young players, when everyone is on them, it's probably a good time to get off. And when no one's on them, it's probably time to buy in. He's like the true GPP play in this range. Connors, we're going to talk up. Henley, Wise, we've already talked to Patton. Riley is the ghost here, and he's proven like his upside is immense. So, yeah.
GPPs for sure. I see it. I'll be, even though Corey Connors is the chalk, I like Corey Connors a lot. So it's about your team there. If you're looking to change it up in the mid range, Davis Riley's got all the skills in the world. And I get that. A guy that clearly he likes this type of golf, and he likes, well, he's a Florida guy, but he's a Bermuda guy, and he's a FedEx Cup guy. And I'm talking about Billy Horschel, who at first glance, I'll be honest, when I see a field of this strength and I see Billy Horschel in the 8s, I feel like, wow, he's overpriced. When you dig in, he's really not overpriced because he's playing good golf and he has shown up in this type of situation before.
Yeah.
I prefer Shane Lowry, I'll be honest, but what do you think about Billy Ho?
Yeah, that's kind of like what you're going to have to decide, right? Like if you're going to make the move on Lowry or Horschel. Look, just taking another gander too at the ownership projections. Lowry actually isn't projecting for super low ownership as I thought he might be at this point in the week. So
I think
that is something to consider.
I really do.
Yeah. So that's something to consider there. But like Horschel, He talked about the game being rusty last week. It was a little bit rusty, but I mean, if it's rusty and you're still posting a top 30, it's not horrible. This has been the spot for him. Get on these Bermuda greens, these Florida courses. So Neiman, Kim kind of crossed off. Horschel's much more likely probably to go out and gain you 8 strokes putting. I would probably prefer Lowry as like the floor play, but Horschel is like the ceiling play. It's really just how crazy you want to get, I guess. I could also make a case to just say Lowry and Horschel. I'll just chuck them both out and I'll just bypass this range completely. I almost feel like that's kind of what I'll end up doing. I'm not sure I love the upside for both these players this week. So, the more I'm talking about it, I'm kind of just like, I think it's a good range to just like bypass, forget the Tom Kim chalk, and maybe load up on a little bit of these guys we like in the high 7K range and take a shot with a guy like Riley down there too.
I have one lineup that I'm settled on, and it's double north of 10, and it does omit this range, and then it peppers Wise and Hatton in the middle, because I think you can do that, and you could make a lot of pivots off that. I'm willing to go down with some of those. Now we start to get to the lower sevens a little bit, and I want to ask you, I mean, I don't know if I just want to punish myself on camera here with Harold Varner talk. I really liked him last week, and I'll be honest, I didn't think he played that bad. I really didn't. He missed the cut on the number, and he 3-putted the 36 hole because I think he thought that he had to make that, and as did I. He had an 18-footer to quote unquote make the cut. He missed it, and then he missed like a 3 or 4-footer coming back. Then the line didn't move. He lost 2 strokes putting in the 2 rounds. He gained 1.5 tee to green. Not going to blow you away, but Harold Varner has kind of a theme, a heritage. OHL, the players. These are the type of courses. I think he's going to be just fine here.
I definitely think he'll bounce back, or he's got the potential to bounce back. Let's put it that
10% this week for sure.
Yeah, and this range starts to get like, this range is really interesting for guys like you're not. This isn't a place where you're probably going to be loading up, but you can pick and choose your plays here. The only thing that I dislike about Varner is the tougher conditions. I'd much rather have him on like a softer course where we're probably getting to like 18 or even 20 under. So that's my only kind of qualm with him. I'll probably just stay off. Again, not a player I necessarily hate. We're in a quality field here. Got to make tough decisions. I'm going to be out on him mainly because I'll just play Chris Kirk.
Chris Kirk, let's talk about him right now. Clearly, I think we both think he's going to make the cut. He's automatic off the tee. You've been preaching all year that the guy just gets it done. And his price never moves. He's always in the mid 7s. Why not Chris Kirk this week?
Yeah, I got nothing bad to say about him. He's 100-1 in betting odds too.
Interesting.
Uber straight off the tee. Uber, not uber long, but he's 16 strokes gained off the tee in this field. He's actually second or first in around the green stats. And in his last start in Detroit, he actually lost strokes around the green. It's like the first time ever this year. But now he's back to a Bermuda track. Where did he play his best golf this year? It was actually in Florida. I'll take Chris Kirk. I like the tough conditions for him. It sounds weird to say because I don't really think of Chris Kirk like that, but he's turned into that kind of player. Very strong tee to green. I think he can do something similar that Answer did last year and kind of just knock his way around the course if the irons are there. So yeah, I'm very high on Chris Kirk again. I like the fact that like people are going to be spread out in this range. Seabez, Bradley, people are talking up, one of our colleagues. Varner, people go back. Just keep the ownership flat on Chris Kirk and I'll like it.
Fair enough. It's like I said, it's very hard to argue with that. He's not going to be popular and he's just doing his thing. And him and Russell Henley are guys like that I think in some of these you can really stick with. And Kirk's really been performing. I want to ask you about a guy, and I've said this a couple times this week, and hopefully you've watched all my shows, but if you did, you probably said this guy said this like 6 times. There's a lot of interesting things in this field in terms of recent form with the guys who have only played basically in the majors recently versus the guys that played the Barbasol, the 3M, the Wyndham, and how recent form is kind of categorized. And I'm alluding a little to Alex Noren because he's been playing really bad. But these tournaments are the PGA Championship, the Memorial, the US Open, and the Scottish Open. He decided not to play in these kind of easy rinky-dink events. And I think if he did, we might have a different narrative around him. Do you think it's possibly a buy low spot on Noren? We have him at 4% ownership right now. I'm kind of intrigued in tournaments.
I'm always intrigued by.
Yeah, I know you like Noren. So, noted Noren guy.
But like, yeah, definitely a noted Noren backer. But he's the classic spike putter, who I mean can just show up like almost on any course too. Like that's the thing. Alex Noren will obviously, like the Honda Classic. It's a great comparable. I mean, I do like this setup for him, but like he showed up at the Phoenix Open this year, the Barracuda. Like it can just happen for him. So yeah, like 4% Alex Noren, absolutely count me in. You know, and again, like we're down past like the mid 7Ks. So you know, you're kind of picking and choosing between players. And you've really got to just like pare down, like what is their ultimate upside here? Like, you know, McNeely, Rose was a disaster last week. Rose could pop up here too. But like Noren deserves a little bit of respect for the Barracuda and just for what he's done this year. Like him and Rose, like if Rose is going to be a little bit more popular or the same, I mean, I'll take Noren on this course. I mean, you look back, he's had a good year, like, you know, a bunch of top 15s, a couple top 5s, like, the game seems pretty solid for Alex Noren, and the narrative on him, and it's a true narrative. He likes the tougher setups. So yep. Yeah, I mean, a player that, you know, tonight I've already got circled for probably adding and just sprinkling some lost dollars on, and I'll probably do that.
7:37 a.m. tee time. If I build out a bigger first round leader card, Noren's going to be on it. I just think that he has the opportunity to get off to a quick start. A lot of downside, but as a tournament play, I like him. And I'm going to ask you kind of like King of the Hill style. If you could only play one, would it be Noren over Rose?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would it be Noren over Cam Davis?
Yes. Cam Davis is a little bit closer for sure because of the birdie potential of Cam Davis. But I think there's enough water on this course that, well, I mean, yeah, I'll
Cam
take
Davis. Here we go. All right. Cam Davis has made, in terms of double bogeys, 6, 4, 1, 2, 4, and 1 in his last starts. Like, and some of those are not courses that really yield double bogeys. So when you get into a place like this, it's hard to imagine that he doesn't have at least 2 or 3 doubles.
That's the thing. It's the recent form is great, but you like, I mean, we've watched a lot of Cam Davis over the last little bit, and we've talked about him. And he's doing what he's doing on easier courses where, you know, he's making doubles on holes he shouldn't make doubles on. And I'm just worried this week that those doubles are quads and maybe the birdies don't bounce back as quick. I could see this as the crash and burn spot for Cam Davis. He's playing pretty good. And like I said, it's not like, I'm not saying he's terrible or anything like that in this range. If he does make the cut, he's also could put in a 64 for you on the weekend or something. But yeah, I do like Noren between, you know, those 3 guys.
I'm with you. The chalk in that same range is Scott Stallings, of all people. Now, he's been playing great golf.
Yeah.
But do you see that? Or are you saying, you know what, there's 5 to 10 pivots around him, I'm going to go there? Or do you say the 8th, 4th, 10th, 13th, gaining strokes on the approach, the game is in very solid shape, no doubt?
So much like the Noren at 4%, I mean, I'm just going to double check this so that, but like we got a guy who's finished runner up twice in his last 3 starts coming in at under 4% ownership, right below Scott Stallings.
And who would that be?
Oh, come on.
I mean,
come on, Ben, get it together.
Let me ask you, do you worry that he's putting? I don't want to start saying, well, Rio can't putt and we can't play him, and now he can putt and we can't play him, because then it's going to be very difficult to say, why can't we play him? But I look at the numbers and I'm just like, this doesn't resemble him at all. But my God, it looks great.
Yeah, I'll look. You gotta live and die with your guy. I take, like, I'll live and die with a guy like Grillo. I really will. I think
I've died with him in the past.
I mean, we have. I mean, I've been there too. Trust me. But like Scott Stallings is going to be like 3 times owned, and you can play Scott Stallings if you really want to. You can play him. He's going to be like 10, 12% owned. It's not going to like drag down your lineup that much. But when we get in this range, these players are down here for a reason. And I think Grillo is just like he's got the tee to green game. He's got the quality. I still think that there's that just like that pedigree in him that makes him a better play long term. So yeah, I'll take Grillo in this field. I'll take Grillo down there at like 1/4 the ownership of Scott Stallings this week. He's played better when he does get these confidence. You never know who's going to show up, but man, he's looked really good lately, and he's smashing it off the tee. Just smashing it right now. Like I talked about Chris Kirk's consistency. Grillo may not be that long, but like you're not going to have to worry. You shouldn't have to worry about him.
You shouldn't
putting it in the water twice off the tee here. Like you just should not have to do that. So yeah.
No, I'm worried about him putting into the water,
yes.
Which is an issue and frowned upon at most courses. But listen, I get it. I absolutely get it. And Scott Stallings makes sense. That's why he's really popular. I'm not adamantly against it because I think he's a fine play, but I'm with you. I certainly would go with Grillo and maybe some of these other guys in the same range, Noren as well. But let's start getting a little egregious as we work down. We got about 10 minutes left. We're doing great for time. There are names. I think that the biggest difference between this and a normal PGA event is there's 40 guys in the sixes that have relatively no chance and they're irrelevant. Everybody here is obviously a decent player. There's a couple names where I'm like, how the hell did they make it? Ricky would actually be one of them, but that's not who I'm talking about. As we get into the sixes, the guy that really caught my mind, or my eye, I should say, is Taylor Moore. Not because I love the play, but he's just playing amazing. And he's the same price as Tom Hoge, who was doing nothing and then exploded for 10 strokes on the approach last time we saw him. Do you see those guys as reasonable options, or do you say there are other guys around them in the sixes that make more sense?
Yeah. I mean, like Taylor Moore, really nice week last week. I mean, 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, that's right. At the Rocket too. So
yeah, he played really well.
I mean, is this like another Taylor Pendrith situation where we just like, you just got to keep playing him? It kind of feels like it is. I know that the step up is big, but we're also in a range here where, the cupboard's getting pretty bare pretty quick. Like you can take your shots with like a Kisner or a Wyndham Clark, and maybe the putter shows up for those guys, but like also, we're in a course where they're not striking it very consistently. And like, there's a lot of water. So yeah, I think that staying on like a Moore is fine. Were you asking me to go between Hoge and Moore, or were you just asking me about those guys in particular?
No, I feel like when I looked at the range, those were the guys that stuck out. Tom Hoge looks like he's going to garner, quote unquote, the chalk. He's not going to be popular relative, but he seems like the most obvious target. And I just look, Taylor Moore playing really good. Then you got guys like Brandon Wu flashed. Smalley's been up and down. Lakiri, KH Lee, Svensson. I'm not saying get to these guys. I just think that it's a situation. I'm not sure how many you're going to go to. You've got guys, when you look at double up 10K, you're going to be able to spray a lot of these names. And as I go lower, I wouldn't be surprised if you never come back to the show, because this is a situation where some of these guys down here, it's getting a little dicey. Luke List, Trey Mullinax, Patrick Rogers. I'm not sure how many other names I'm going to be able to talk about, to be honest, because I will not talk about Matthias Schwab until you return. I'm going to save that. But as I was saying,
my kids got loose out of the pen, Ben.
It seems like a real circus up there, man. You missed my monologue. I don't even know what I was saying. I was just reading names off. But honestly, when I look at the sixes, you've got a lot of guys that have flashed form.
Yeah.
Amongst 4 rounds, 6 rounds. Brandon Wu's an example. Patrick Rogers, who I can't quit at times. Mullinax, who you've recommended in the past for a couple weeks here and there. Do you how comfortable are you with these mid sixes? Because I do have a couple guys in the low sixes that I also want to talk about.
No, and it is good to talk about in all seriousness. Man, my kids were about to like take apart my chair. But the other one thing to consider about the 6K range this week when you're making lineups, it's a smaller field. So a lot of these guys will make the cut, right? Like they have just a better percentile chance to make it. And you look down, Again, I don't know about the setup for Trey Mullenix or whatever, but he's a really good player at 6,500. I think that's fine. Matthew Neesmith is a guy I'm very interested in. And another guy for first round leader bets. He gained strokes all across the board last week. He likes these kind of setups, the more technical tracks. He can get hot for a round. I'll play him too down here. And then again, Lahiri led the field in strokes gained tee to green stats last week, Ben. What is going on? Talk about a pop. I think he's playable. I'm fine dipping down in this range this week. And again, you have to consider the style of event. It's just, there's a bigger percentile of guys that are going to make it. And if these guys make it and you got a more unique build, I think it's worthwhile. So Ryan Palmer, another guy you could throw. I like this range a lot. And I almost like it more than paying up for the again, not super chalky guys, but like the Moores and Hoagies, because these guys are a lot cheaper. They let you do more things and you're going to get minuscule ownership.
Lahiri's stats at Wyndham are literally insane.
They were ridiculous. I've tried to find out who is the leader in strokes gained tee to green stats. And I kept cycling through players.
Not Tom Kim.
It was not Tom Kim. And then I hit on Lahiri and I'm like, can't be him. Okay. And then I'm like, okay, 12 strokes, like ball striking alone. It was crazy. Remember, he popped up at Sawgrass too. So he was actually 6th at this event in 2018. Lahiri's putter, if it shows up this week, you may get something a little special from him. So
you're making the case.
7 good first round leader bet. Another guy for first round leaders.
Yep.
Out early.
Yeah, he's going out early. That could be a little expensive. Okay, I like that. A little splash. Never heard anyone. I will say, if you are looking, and Geoff, you've described this a lot throughout the show, and it's true. Like, if you're looking for these little things, because we know how good these golfers are, but we really got to dig into the edges of ownership, of projection, of leverage, of top 6. Get inside the ropes. Even if you come in for just a week or you try us out, you can get 50% off the platinum, which is not just PGA. I'm telling you right now, if you're playing preseason football, you've got to get involved. Matt Kajeski, nobody does it better, but you can use the promo code PGA live before lock, all one word. Go to stokastic.com/join, type that in, save some money and join the team. Make sure when you do, you hop in Discord. Then you can see all my bets. I've actually, knock on wood, been on molten lava fire, and I'm going to try to keep that going. Fortunately, not with golf outrights. That would be really nice. Somehow that will not work. Couple names as we go really low now. What the hell happened to everyone's talking about Tom Kim and his quad, and he wins the tournament. Tyler Duncan also made a quad, but he missed the cut. And that's normally what happens with my golfers.
Yeah.
I'm not really looking to go back, even though I do think that this kind of is a T-Dunk situation.
Yeah, it's like he'll definitely make the cut now, just because of, we were on him last week and we built him up, and it was a weaker field. And because he was playing okay, and it's another very similar setup. All he's got to do is just put together two okay, and really just all he's got to do is avoid the quad bogey, and he'll probably make the cut. I do think when you're looking down in this range, like, he's fine. I mean, obviously what you're looking for in a player like this is really just for them to get you across the cut line, and then, just see if you can get something special. And I think Duncan is very, very, I think of all these players, the most like that I trust the most for a made cut down here. If he's not the top of the list, he's very close to it, just because of his style of game. And the fact that he doesn't do that very often. Like, he's not someone you put down for a quad very often in a tournament. His short game can be a little hit or miss, but it's, usually his iron play keeps him out of trouble. So, again, you look down this range, like Vince Whaley. If you're not playing Tyler Duncan, then I guess you're going for like the gusto, maybe like an 8 strokes gain putting week with Mackenzie Hughes or Kazire or someone like that. But, or just our guy Schwab,
it's that time. It's time to talk about it. We've got a couple of minutes left. This guy. So this is one of these things. I can't just be like, well, he's playing good and he just needs to flip the putter, because there's no indication that he's going to. It just gets worse and worse. I will say he has gained on the approach in 5 straight events. I just don't know exactly what happened to him off the tee. That used to not be, not that it's a glaring issue, but he's not hitting a ton of fairways anymore. And if you combine that with no putting, I'm not sure what his out really is. Having said that, I'm taking a shot with Matthias Schwab at 6,100.
Yeah, it's been kind of a weird season. It looked like it might be like a bit of a breakout year for him. The Honda, the Puerto Rico, the Valero, like he had 3 top 10s in like a 5 start span. And then it was just kind of all over the place, mostly bad. He's got it in him though, to pop up here. Like he really does. So yeah, in terms of upside down here, I don't know where else you're really going to go. I mean, yeah, we could talk about some of these guys. Like Sam Ryder was actually like an okay call by you just because he made the weekend.
Fine.
And he made 15 birdies, like that's not terrible. But trusting him to do it again on a tougher course, I don't really know if I want to do that. I'd probably go with Schwab. At the very least with Schwab, he's shown us that on these kind of courses, like it might be his preference. And maybe this is where he shows up. So we'll stand for him again. Quickly, I keep seeing someone bring up Ches Reavie at 7,100. We did kind of gloss over him. I don't hate that at all. Ches is playing consistently. At the very least, Ches Reavie is probably like a good pivot off the Stallings chalk because he's not going to be as popular. And if Stallings ends up blowing up, which he very well could, Ches will probably get you a weekend. So
no, this is the thing. It's a easy, and that's why kind of to tie it in even to a guy like Schwab, it doesn't mean everyone makes the cut. Obviously people are going to miss the cut, but I'm a lot more apt to roll the dice because I think that you can get through. And in this tournament, saving money allows you to pay up for absolute monsters. It's not like some of these tournaments where it's like, oh, great, I have 22,000 left for my last 2 golfers and I get Adam Hadwin and some other guy. Like you're able to get Rory and Scheffler if you want. Like you can get 2 of the best players in the world if you find a guy in the low 6s that makes this cut. And there will be plenty of guys in the low 6s that make this cut and play just fine. Yeah,
I mean, Russell Knox, another guy is coming in off.
Oh my God. He was like Griot before Griot for me.
Yes. Another guy like Duncan who just, feels like he should be a good play this week, but like also just feels like the rug pull is coming again. But I don't know. A lot of these players, especially at the 65 range, it feels like at least one of them I think is gonna have a very good week and potentially like make some really good lineups pop. So
yeah, I mean Russell Knox is also putting just like Griot, and that as much as being encouraging, it's a red flag for me somehow. Like that freaks me out. Last name, then we'll get hot takes. Stuart Sink, he seems fine actually the more I look, but I'm not drawn to him. I'll be honest. He kind of just slipped through. You got Jaeger right there. There's just so many names in the 6s. I think you're just picking your flyer amongst a bucket of flyers.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, mentioned Mullinix. I don't have a problem with that. That's probably where I'd go. But Neesmith, Knox, we mentioned Duncan. I think that like the upside with the 65 guys are kind of where I would try to cut it off. I just think there's a better chance you get like a top 10 from a guy like Mullinix, or maybe even like a Knox than anyone below that.
That's fair. All right, folks, you know what time it is. Best time of the show, honestly, where it gets a little hot. It's already hot in this apartment, let me tell you, but it's gonna get even crazier. Not Dante's peak level hot because it's not a major or anything, but standard hot takes. I don't really have a good one, I'll be honest. I'm just gonna stick to what I said at the beginning of the show because to me this qualifies as a hot take. I think that Jon Rahm's gonna win this tournament, and I think that people are gonna quickly remember that Jon Rahm was the #1 golfer in the world, and he's very, very good. And if you see him north of 20-1 in any event, that you should bet him. And this will be a hot take that goes on. If Jon Rahm wins this week, you will not see him as the 7th highest priced golfer in a tournament, possibly for like 5 years. I think that that's an actual possibility. Yeah, this is the week where, just to build on that, where you bet guys just so you don't feel stupid after. Like Morikawa, formula.
Hovland.
Oh yeah, Morikawa. That's another dangerous.
He's out there at 40-1, or he was yesterday. I know he's been bet down a little bit in the industry, but like, my God, like you won't see these prices on. You see them once a year max. You'll see these guys, and that's in a down year, because that's what we're in for Morikawa and Rahm. It's a down year. That's the only reason we're seeing them like these guys once. I like the Rahm call. It was the first guy I was like 20-1 Jon Rahm, but I have not seen this for at least 2 years. You got to get a piece somehow. I'm going to say the same thing, but I'm going to say it about Victor Hovland.
Okay.
I know that like he can be a little bit sketchy on these courses sometimes. The short game can certainly do him in, but this is a really high end player we're talking about. 3 wins on the PGA Tour. They've come at like, these water venues, whatever you want to call them, with the Bermuda greens, the softer greens. I know that it's going to be dialed up a bit, but this guy is due for a big win too. Like he needs to get past like the OHL and Puerto Rico wins. So I like that Victor Hovland's coming in with some bigger numbers than usual, smaller number in DFS. I'm going to pick him, and I'm going to make Anirban Lahiri my roll the dice top 10 play. I think that if his putter shows up, you'll see something similar that you did from him at the Players. He's found something this year, and I just think that he lost it for a bit, but I'm going to roll the dice that it's coming back this week.
You sold me on Lahiri. I like that. I'm doing some different things, changing up a little bit with my portfolio with PGA, but I'm gonna have him in some form, maybe even on like the top 20 card or like a ladder, a 40, 20, 10 with Lahiri. We talk about that on the OddsChecker YouTube, which you can all head over after the show, because we're going to bounce on out of here. Friends, you stuck with us through the regular season. I know you're going to stick with us through the playoffs. That's because you guys are the best in the business, and we appreciate you tuning into this show. If you want to support us, hit the like button on the way out. But for me, for Geoff, for our man, third part of this team, Tyler behind the glass, who does a great job as always, good luck. Enjoy the St. Jude Championship. And we will be back next week talking all things PGA as the FedEx Cup rolls on. We'll talk to you guys then, and good luck.